Thank you so much for joining us this evening. My name is Jamie Kidder. I am the National Outreach Director for College Living Experience. And I'd love to take just a quick moment to introduce Katie Strong. Katie is our CLE Austin Program Director who brings more than 20 years of experience supporting individuals with learning differences across residential, community, and therapeutic settings. So Katie, do you want to elaborate a little bit about your experience and your expertise?
Sure. Thanks, Jamie. So, hi, I'm Katie Strong. I grew up here in Austin, which is, I know, sometimes a rare thing. We're, the unicorns out there, the natives that are still around. But I graduated from Anderson High School, which I know some of y'all are representing tonight as well. So I've been actually with CLE it'll be 15 years this summer coming up. And I started as the resident advisor. I was on call helping our students after hours when emergencies came up or, mostly minor emergencies like the toilet's overflowing and I don't know what to do or those kinds of things. And I've worked as the independent living skills coordinator, the career development coordinator, and moved into the director role back in 2018. So I love what we do at CLE. My training and education before that was in neurologic music therapy. I went to Belmont University in Nashville for my undergrad and then to Colorado State University for my master's degree, and had the opportunity through that clinical training to work alongside PTs, OTs, speech therapists, physicians, really got an idea of the benefits of a whole person approach to supporting people and helping them heal in various situations. And so I bring that background with me into this role where I am not doing music therapy, but am leading a team, a really diverse team of professionals from lots of different backgrounds, from education, from special education, from human resources, from occupational therapy, from therapists in training, counselors in training. So we have a really diverse team that we work with, supporting our young adults who are learning to live on their own for the first time, away from home, away from mom and dad, and pursuing their goals in academics, college, or career development as they learn how to live independently. So I've been doing that for 15 years now. I love what we do. Our team loves the work that we do, partnering with our students every day. And I'm excited for y'all to hear more about it from Jamie tonight.
Great. Thank you, Katie. So just a few quick housekeeping notes. Because we have such a large group logging on, your cameras and microphones have been disabled. And also, because it's such a large group, we may not have time for questions at the end, but please drop your questions in the Q&A. I will capture those questions and then send out the Q&A document as along with the follow-up email. And lastly, we're recording this event. And so I will share the link to the recording in the follow-up. So please feel free to pass that along to other families who you think might benefit from this conversation. So let's go ahead. Now, most teens, neurotypical and neurodiverse, associate graduating high school with I'm an adult. And they associate being an adult with one of two things, either going to college or jumping into the workforce. And for most parents, after their child graduates from high school, these are really the two options that they are presented with. I know my parents gave me those two options, and then I got luggage for a graduation gift. So if that's a subliminal message, I don't know what is. But what does that look like when your young adult learns differently or has other exceptionalities? So often the conversations that we have with families start the exact same way. My child is having a great high school experience. They're doing well academically. They've got a solid friend group. They're involved in activities. They're ready to go off to college or get a job. And as parents, of course, we want that. We want our child to have that full experience, the independence, the growth, the opportunity that comes along with that next step. Now, from the outside, everything looks ready for launch. But what we often overlook is something we call the cliff of services. And that cliff shows up for every young adult transitioning out of high school, whether they learn differently or not. Because high school is so structured with a lot of built-in support and safety nets. And then suddenly, once our student walks across the stage, those services end, and sometimes they end abruptly. So before we dive into CLE specifically, I want to just spend a minute or two talking about that cliff because it does come at us very quickly and it can be a real shock to the system for families and students alike. So this is a typical high school schedule. We're talking 25 to 30 hours a week of highly structured classroom time where every hour is mapped out. Students know where they're supposed to be, what they're supposed to be doing, and who's directing it. There's built-in accountability. Teachers are leading the learning, and they're breaking things down in step-by-step processes. There's really very little true independent work happening without guidance. And when it's needed, there are modifications, accommodations, and curriculum is being altered. All of that support is woven in. It's structured, it's predictable, it's supported. And then after school, you as their parents tend to structure that too. So you are managing the calendar, practices, appointments, tutoring, family obligations, places to be. So even the outside time, outside of school hours, there's a plan. So when you really zoom out and look at that full day, there's not a lot of unstructured space. There isn't a lot of variation. And where there is variation, there's a reliable support system ready to catch it. Parents, siblings, teachers, counselors, administrators, therapists, coaches, their safety net is really wide and it's really tightly woven. And then they graduate from high school and they move on to college. And this is what a typical college schedule looks like. It's 4 classes, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, Tuesday, Thursday rotations, 12 to 15 hours in a classroom each week, and that's it. And the rest of the time, it's wide open. It's unscheduled, it's unstructured, it's unoccupied. And the learning itself shifts pretty dramatically because now the student, there's a heavy emphasis on independent reading and writing and self-paced study. It's now student-led rather than teacher-led. Professors expect proficiency, and there's typically very little leniency and not very many curriculum modifications. No one's checking daily homework or walking them step by step through assignments. No one's taking attendance, making sure they're actually showing up to class. Sending reminders or saying, hey, have you started this paper yet? Or what about outside of class time? No one's reminding them that they need to be active on campus to join a social group or nudging them, you haven't washed your sheets in 6 weeks, it's time to do laundry, or helping them plan out that wide open Tuesday afternoon. The shift from high school to college is dramatic and it can be terrifying for some students. So we really encourage parents to look at the scaffolding that currently surrounds your young adult, all of that structure that we just talked about, and imagine what day-to-day life for your young adult will look like when that scaffolding is gone. If that structure isn't there, how will they stay regulated and productive and moving toward their goals? And that is exactly where CLE comes into play. So CLE has been supporting post-secondary young adults since 1989. So for a really long time, we have been providing individualized, comprehensive, wraparound support to students with varying and very unique abilities. And when I say it's individualized, I mean just that. Our support is not one size fits all. It's really fluid in that it's tailored to each student's goals and strengths and their needs. And as those goals shift, as skills grow, confidence builds, or new challenges emerge, the student's support shifts right along with them. So we are constantly adjusting the scaffolding so it matches where the student is today, not where they were 6 months ago. Students come to one of 8 CLE's locations from all over the country and really from around the world. We have 3 locations in California, Monterey, Costa Mesa, and our newest location in San Diego. There's Nashville, Tennessee, Fort Lauderdale, Florida, Rockville, Maryland, just outside the Washington, D.C. metro. So we've got Washington, D.C. on the map, but it's in Rockville, just outside the D.C. metro. Denver, Colorado, and of course, right there in Austin, Texas. Now, while the core support model and operational structure are consistent, they're consistent across every center. Each location really takes on the personality of the city that it's in. So Monterey feels very different than Austin, Nashville different from Rockville. Each center has its own environment, culture, and vibe, and that is really intentional. Our goal is not just to understand who our young adults are clinically, it's to understand who they are as people. What are their interests? What are their hobbies? What's their personality? What really lights them up? And for those students who aren't quite sure which center they want to choose, we help guide them to an environment where we really understand who they are, and help them find an environment that fits who they are, because we know that when students are in an environment that fits them, they are feeling, or they will feel comfortable and connected, and they're much more likely to engage and stretch and grow and build a meaningful life within that community. So who do we serve? Our students are incredibly different from one another, and we celebrate that. And in fact, we help them learn to celebrate it themselves. But while their personalities and interests and stories are all unique, there are some common threads that tie them together. So our students are typically between the age of 18 and about 27, 28 years old. They're all in that post-secondary season of life, really trying to figure out what adulthood looks like for them. Most of our students have a diagnosed learning difference of some kind, and often they have more than one diagnosis. The most common are ASD, nonverbal learning disorder, ADHD. Many of our students also experience some co-occurring challenge like OCD, anxiety, depression. But a diagnosis is really only a very small part of our students' story. Our students want to belong. They want real friendships. They want to be a part of a community. They want to pursue a college education or meaningful employment, and feel competent and valued in what they're doing. They want their contributions to matter. But the one true common thread amongst our students is the desire to live an independent life. And again, that's where we come into play. And Katie, please feel free to, pump the brakes on my chatter and add to this, because really you're the expert. But now on to the good stuff. How do we support our students? Each of our students has to choose either an academic or a career track. They have to pick one. They can't just come and hang out with us, though we would love for them to do that. And like most young adults and most students, they change their tracks once or even several times while they're with us. And when that happens, we pivot right along with them. The student drives the bus in their day-to-day life. We support our students across 4 primary pillar areas: academic, career, social, and independent living. And woven throughout all of these is executive function coaching. It's really almost the glue that holds everything together. Now, our supports are fluid, like I said. We continually talk to students about their goals. We assess their strengths, their areas of growth, or areas for growth. And we adjust that support structure accordingly within these 4 pillars. Students engage in supports 16 to 20, 22 hours a week. And because the structure is flexible, as the student's skills grow, their support structure will shift. For example, if a student is really comfortable and confident in navigating the community on public transportation, we may scale back hours devoted to transportation training. Meanwhile, maybe they're struggling with one-on-one conversations in a professional setting. We may increase some social coaching hours in that particular area to help boost those skills where they're struggling. So support and coaching sessions happen really wherever life is happening. So in our offices, college campuses, restaurants, grocery stores, in the student's workplace, public transportation, students' apartments. Again, the student is driving the bus, figuratively, not literally, but support is happening wherever that student's life is happening. So let's go ahead and let's take a dive into the 4 pillars and find out what they really look like. So academic support. And, we understand that what happens in the classroom, or course content mastery, if you will, is really only about 30% of what makes a college experience successful. We know that real college success, especially with our students, happens when the student is truly supported in that remaining 70% of the experience. So our coaches help students identify an academic path that's right for them. They help them navigate and schedule, or navigate course selection and schedule alignment and registration. They learn how they work with students on self-advocating for accommodations with faculty, campus administrators, with accommodations offices, and how to navigate the physical campus. During coaching sessions and study halls, academic coaches will help students also build really good executive function skills around academic routines. For example, the student may have 2 or 3 tutoring sessions or academic coaching sessions in a week. And that coach will guide the student through a routine each time the coach meets with that student. So steps 1 through 5, for example, might be log into your email and check and respond to faculty communications. Now, the response step is often the step that's missed. And we work with students on identifying when an email needs to be responded to and when it's just an information that's just being shared. Then we'll have students check platforms like Canvas or Blackboard for syllabi. Look for upcoming deadlines or changes to deadlines. Assignment details. Coaches will help students break down assignments into more manageable pieces in alignment with due dates and deadlines. And really, what do manageable pieces look like in the context of the student's personal weekly, daily, monthly schedules? And so the coach will help students really develop, again, the executive function skills in that academic setting. The coaches will make this kind of thing a routine so that it is the first thing that a student does each time they meet with their coach, so that over time, it becomes the normal first thing they do anytime they sit down to tackle homework or to tackle a school assignment. That routine becomes the norm. We get asked a lot of questions, and Katie, you can jump in at any time to talk a little bit more about academics. But I want to talk about just a little bit about the colleges that our students attend. We get asked a lot about our partnerships with the colleges that our students attend in the cities that we are in. Now, while we don't have formal partnerships or formal articulation agreements with specific institutions, the schools that our students attend in any of our CLE cities know who we are. We've been doing what we do for so long. They know who we are and how we support our students. And they are so wonderful about openly collaborating with us to help our students and really their students be successful in their college pursuits. So Katie, do you want to jump in and talk a little bit about academic support?
Yeah, sure. Well, so here in Austin, to just piggyback onto what you were just talking about, Jamie, most of our students are currently attending Austin Community College. The Highland campus is right across the street from the apartments where our students live, and our center is within a couple of blocks of there as well. So if you have not visited ACC Highland yet, set up a visit, either just directly through ACC or come tour CLE so we can show you around there as well and talk about how we support students on campus there. But because we are not bound only to ACC, we also have had students attending UT Austin. We've had students attending Southwestern University up in Georgetown, St. Edward's down in South Austin. So our students can go to any academic institution that is the right fit for them. And CLE supports are a separate supplemental support to whatever they are doing in their college setting, or again, career development if that is their focus. The other thing I was going to say, just talking about that transition from high school to college, if you are a parent and you are regularly needing to fill the role that Jamie was describing of essentially sort of being the executive functioning brain for your son or your daughter, sitting down with them, helping them, follow those homework routines, get their assignments completed, stay on top of when they're due. If that is a big part of your life right now, please know they likely are going to need some support with that and transitioning that away from you and allowing you to move less, out of the executive functioning role and into more of the consultant role, but not having to keep track of all those details and everything, so that then eventually that support can fade away, which is always our goal at CLE, is to work ourselves out of a job by, as students are managing more independently, we're slowly but surely, inching our way back and fading out in the background so that the student can manage it on their own. So helping them understand just the college system, college knowledge, where to go when they have a question, who to talk to about accommodations, where is the testing center, and what I'm supposed to schedule my test 2 weeks ahead of time to take it in the testing center. All of these little bits and pieces, all of these puzzle pieces that, you know, most of us, all of us probably could have benefited from that kind of support when we were on our own for the first time. That's what parents always say when they come and tour with us at CLE. My gosh, I really could have used this when I was 18 and going off to college for the first time. So it's kind of just figure it out is the way that that generally goes for students, and just figure it out isn't going to work for most of the students that we're working with. They need a little bit of extra help, a little bit of side-by-side support at first. And then we get out of their way once they're comfortable and they know where to go and what to do on campus. So that's where we fill in as that bridge to help them get there.
Love that. Thank you, Katie. Okay, so moving on to career support. So every student at CLE, regardless of whether they are on an academic or a career track, will complete the Greenwood assessment. And the Greenwood assessment is really a powerful tool for helping students learn about themselves, their values, their strengths, their potential career options that align with who they are. Whereas a lot of assessments really focus on skill sets, but this one focuses on who they are. And often it introduces career paths that students hadn't ever considered or even thought possible. Now, throughout the process, we're teaching students how to conduct a job search, build a resume, and complete applications, prepare for interviews, including understanding the types of questions asked and how to answer those questions in a way that highlights their skills. But we also recognize that oftentimes students are not immediately ready to dive into a job application or to an interview. And in these cases, we're going to help a student secure a volunteer position or another type of real world experience to build those skills and to build their confidence before transitioning into paid employment. And once the student has found that job, career coaches then shift their focus of support and start helping the student really develop the skills needed to maintain and thrive in the workplace. So that'll be things like workplace executive function, professional communication and conversations, and what do those look like, and why do they need to be different when I'm talking to a supervisor as opposed to a peer? Why does that matter? Work ethic and responsibility, or responsibly prioritizing tasks. And I know, Katie, you're going to nod your head at this one. Why is it important for, if I have a 5-hour shift and I'm done everything I needed to do in 3 hours, why is it important for me to not play on my phone for the last 2 hours when I've accomplished everything I need to do? Why does it make me a good employee to go and ask for additional responsibilities? So we're working with students on understanding the workplace and how to be a good employee within that setting, or how to be a good steward of that time and the company's money. Katie, is there anything you want to add about career support?
I guess just reiterating what you said, that a lot of times this is not a straight path, not a straight line from point A to point B. So a student might come in, kind of burned out on school. Maybe they just graduated and they had to really put a lot of effort and energy these last year or two to get to the finish line, and they don't want to do college for a while, and that's okay. Or they don't know if they ever want to go to college. So we can start with career development, that career assessment and career exploration process. And sometimes, to their surprise, that leads to, oh, wait, there's a certification path at ACC that I could do in like 3 months, and then I could potentially earn $20 an hour. We help them see those connections and find those opportunities where they come up. So, or the student who comes in dead set on academics, I know where I want to go. I'm going to start at ACC and I'm going to transfer to Texas Tech or whatever the case may be. But maybe they take a summer off from classes and they get some work experience. So, we tend to work with students in both areas at some point when they're in the program.
Yeah, Katie, those are great examples of really, like I said before, the student drives the bus of their everyday life, and we pivot right along with them as they are transitioning goals in that. So thank you, Katie. So social engagement. this is really so much more about so much more than just making and maintaining friendships. So we focus on building students' communication confidence so that in any situation or environment, they feel confident and capable of reading the room, understanding their audience and the role that they play within that audience, and being able to express their thoughts and their feelings in a productive and meaningful way. Coaches will work on things in real world, real time settings, like entering and exiting conversations appropriately, setting and respecting personal boundaries, being respectful of differing opinions, reading body language and practicing active listening, redirecting conversations when needed if they're feeling uncomfortable, and how to do that. Understanding personal space and distinguishing between appropriate and inappropriate conversations. And adjusting communication to different audiences or in different environments. And while coaching sessions, like I said before, happen in a variety of settings, really social coaching doesn't only occur during those social coaching sessions, because interactions, both in person and virtually, happen all the time. So really every pillar of support incorporates social or communication coaching in some way. And I think all of our centers and all of our directors and coaches do such a great job in creating environments where students are encouraged to engage, and they want to be engaged with their peers, and they are then really encouraged to be engaged in their community. So we have a lot of students who see clubs and organizations on their college campus or that are community-based organizations that they want to get involved in. And our coaches do a beautiful job in supporting the student in navigating getting involved in those or engaged in those outside CLE communities. Katie, do you want to elaborate a little bit on social?
Yeah, I think social skills are integrated in every aspect, like Jamie was saying, from even just baseline expectations and lots of feedback. Lots of feedback in both directions. We help students give feedback, like to me as an advisor, or if they're struggling with another staff member, we're going to help them have a conversation about that. And the other staff member is going to be very receptive to that and responsive to it. And we're going to show the student that what their input matters. We're going to make adjustments, sometimes based on their requests and things like that. So really modeling that, modeling what the expectations are going to be in a college campus or in a workplace, that you don't just walk into somebody's office, even if they're in there by themselves and staring at their computer, you don't just walk right on in, those kinds of things. So they're getting the reinforcement in so many touch points across their days and their weeks, from our Kickstart group first thing in the morning at the apartment complex, to their tutoring session, to their career development session, their ILS session, as well as, of course, social coaching. So they are getting a lot of feedback and really definitely building that confidence. And the other thing I will say is that sometimes students who, are very, very capable and maybe even debating, well, do I need support or am I ready to just go off to college? Sometimes in that cohort of students, there's concern of like, is this CLE program going to be like all up in my life? Like, do I have to be there all the time? And so I like to reassure them that no, we are not your entire life. CLE is not the be all end all of every moment of your day. There's a lot of independence built in right from the beginning to the appropriate level based on the individual student. So if they already have local friends that they want to go hang out with on the weekends, absolutely, they can do that. If they already have, even a part-time job that they're working, or, they're dating, great. We are not going to get in the way of that. We will support them in that to the degree that they want and or need that. But we're not going to press our way in if they're comfortable and doing fine in an area like that, then that's great. We're going to encourage them and cheer from the background, but we're not going to get in the way of that.
Great. So this is really where the rubber meets the road for us. For most young adults, being an adult is synonymous with independence, whether that's living on your own or just not relying on your parents to manage your everyday life. And having a learning difference doesn't change that definition. So our students live in a 2-bedroom, 2-bathroom apartment with another CLE student as a roommate. Now, these are all community complexes, so their neighbor might be a young married couple with a toddler. The complexes include amenities like pools and gyms and common spaces and spaces that all the other residents, including our students, use for social engagement. Coaches support students in developing the skills needed to manage their own day-to-day lives. So things like apartment upkeep. We don't expect hospital clean spaces, but students should maintain college clean standards. So for example, if they're planning to have friends over for game night, we're going to help students notice when shared spaces or recognize when shared spaces need some attention. And we're going to help them build those skills, not only to complete the task, but to independently recognize what needs to be done in the first place. Coaches will help students develop consistent daily routines. So waking up on time, morning hygiene, medication management. We'll sidestep to med management here in just a moment. Coaches will also work with students in regard to roommate relationships and conflict resolution. Healthy boundary setting and understanding roommate boundaries is a big one, because living with your brother or sister for the last 18 years is very different than moving in with a total stranger. There have got to be boundaries, and we need to understand how to set them for ourselves and how to understand and adhere to someone else's. We work with students on learning to manage weekly and monthly budgets, understanding the difference between spending as a dependent in mom and dad's house versus managing your daily life with your own expenses, meal planning, grocery shopping, meal preparation, all of those things that happen in day-to-day life. That's what coaches are helping students navigate. So getting back to medication management, we like for students to demonstrate some independence in managing their daily medications before they come to CLE. We will help students set reminders on their phones, medication calendars, we'll do verbal check-ins. We will remind them, hey, remember when you're supposed to do your refill. But we are not equipped to administer medications daily. We will help students set reminders and learn to manage them on their own, but we like for them to have some independence before they come to us with that. Another crucial component of ILS support is transportation training. Most of our students don't drive, and so navigating the community safely is vital. Our center locations are really intentionally chosen near public transportation options, subways, trains, commuter rails, buses, rideshare services, of course. And students learn not just the task of getting from point A to point B, but they really learn the executive function skills required to plan, execute, arrive safely and on time anywhere in the city. We want them to be engaged in their community, and navigating the community is going to be key to that engagement. Katie, I know ILS, again, where the rubber meets the road for us. So dive in.
Yeah, just a couple things I'll add. One, with the financial management, we are helping students pay their rent and pay their bills each month. So for most of our students, the transition that's happening is they are moving from probably having had a checking account, having had a debit card and knowing how to use that, but maybe being in the habit of just looking at their bank balance and going, cool, whatever that number is, I got that much to spend, to now, I have rent due next week. And I have also, a bill that I'm splitting with my roommate that I'm going to need to pay. So I can't just look at my bank balance and assume that I have that much to spend. So that's a big part of learning that new monthly cycle and monthly budget management. Also with our resident advisor, I mentioned that was my first role at CLE. So that's part of our independent living skills supports. We have, Jamie, am I getting ahead of myself? Is this on another slide? About the RA? Okay, great. So we have an RA at all of our centers. That's one of our full-time staff members. And they're on call 24/7. So if something comes up after hours when our center is closed, they still have somebody that lives, within just a couple minutes and can help them either over the phone or in person if something goes wrong. And again, most often that's something like the toilet's overflowing and they don't know what to do, or they made pizza in the oven and the red light is still on and I'm not sure if it's off or is it going to be a fire, talking through and helping with those kinds of things. But if there's a true emergency, somebody's sick in the middle of the night, they need to go to a, urgent care or even the ER, we are there to help with that as well. With transportation, so currently in Austin, I think we're at about 50-50 with drivers versus students who don't drive. So students can drive, and if they have a car, they can bring a car to Austin. That's fine. We also have some students who drive maybe in their smaller hometowns, and they and parents go, not in Austin. We're not bringing a car there. So either way is fine. Even with our students who drive and who have cars here, we encourage them to do some travel training with us so that they can learn public transportation, so that they have that skill and they have that as a backup in case they get a flat tire or the car's in the shop for a week and they have to get around and function anyway. So but I just wanted to share that is a higher percentage at the Austin Center than maybe at some of the others right now.
Let's see here. There it is right there. So executive function is not one of our 4 formal pillars of support, but it really is woven into every part of a student's CLE experience. Executive function coaching helps students take those critical steps, waking up, getting to class or work on time, setting priorities, managing their time, breaking tasks down, and even identifying and reframing emotions to improve self-regulation and behavior. So that sounds like a lot. And yes, it is. It's a lot. And you're probably wondering, how in the world does all of this happen? Like, what does it look like on paper? How do I envision that? Well, this is an example of a typical weekly schedule for a student who is on an academic track taking 2 college courses. Now, when we started this evening, I talked a little bit about the scaffolding, that layered support, and a tightly woven safety net. Now, while this schedule looks really full, there's still a meaningful amount of unstructured time, and that has been done intentionally. This really gives the student the opportunity to practice those newly acquired executive function skills and to really learn how to manage that downtime, which we all know really doesn't exist in adult life. There's no such thing as downtime. So we have intentionally built in space for things like cleaning their bathroom before friends come over, studying for an upcoming exam, preparing lunch the day before a busy day. Coaches really support this process by asking the right questions as they're ending one coaching session, knowing the student has some quote unquote downtime and a session maybe following that. They're really good about asking the right questions and helping the student use that time or start thinking about how they're going to use that time in ways that will set both them and their day up for success. So looking at that schedule and thinking about your young adult's current daily schedule, let's go ahead, and Katie, if I need to add anything else about the daily schedule before we shift into some practical strategies. Are we good? All right. Okay. Well, let's go ahead and take a look at some practical strategies that you can start doing or start implementing at home that are really going to empower your young adults and help build strong foundational independent living skills at home before they come to CLE. So there are so many ways to help your young adult get ready for adult life, and these are really just a few of them. So we're going to briefly kind of walk through these, and I want you to keep in mind that with anything that you implement at home, the goal is not perfection. It's ownership, it's consistency, and it's confidence. So, fostering responsibility, maybe assign household tasks and create routines around those tasks at home. And again, it's not helping because you live in this house, but it's owning because you live in this house. Things like doing their own laundry from start to finish, cleaning their bathroom on a weekly schedule, preparing meals or one meal for the whole family once a week. And that includes planning, making the list, shopping, of course, you taking them to the grocery store, whatever that looks like, preparing, serving, cleaning. What are the steps? Maybe once a week, managing dishes or trash on a rotating schedule, but really help your student to own it rather than just giving them the sense that they're helping out around the house. Time management is not something that students or really anyone suddenly figures out once they're in college. I know I certainly didn't. It has to be something that's really practiced while the stakes are low. And so the goal here is not for you to manage the system, it's for the student to learn how to manage it for themselves. So maybe start using a shared planner or a digital calendar and have your student practice prioritizing tasks and setting deadlines. Have them enter their assignments, any tests or practices and appointments into that calendar. And with assignments, teach them to work backward from deadlines and plan out those smaller steps and add those smaller steps to the calendar with their own internal deadline. I'd help your student identify what needs to be done first versus what can wait, and talk about realistic timelines. And don't forget things like transportation time, so travel time, schedule time for breaks, time for preparation. This also will include really changing the way you communicate with your young adult. So instead of saying things like, hey, this is what our schedule looks like this week, ask them, what's coming up this week? What have we got going on this week? Have them start thinking about what that looks like. Rather than saying, let's do XYZ to get ready for this event on Friday, ask your young adults, what needs to happen today so that Friday is not so overwhelming. Have them start thinking about breaking Friday down and what's going to make Friday easier. Or things like, here's what we can do tonight. Ask them, how are you planning your time this evening? It's really just kind of a shift in how we communicate time management. So self-advocacy is a strong predictor of post-secondary success. And right now, you are probably the primary communicator with teachers, counselors, administrators, and really even everyone outside of school. But as your student approaches adulthood, that responsibility will inevitably shift to them, but we can start to gradually shift that responsibility to them now. So maybe start coaching your student on how to construct an email to a teacher with their questions, or invite them to meetings with their counselors. Have them participate in their own IEP or 504 meetings. It's really important to help them practice explaining their learning profile and what accommodations are the most helpful to them. Help them practice articulating what accommodations they currently receive. Because really, by the time the student leaves high school, you want them to be comfortable in expressing their strengths, their challenges, and what they need to a college accommodations administrator or to an employer. And as they grow more confident in taking on these conversations, allow them to lead the conversation. Even if it feels uncomfortable, you can be there to help guide them. But it's really that confidence that becomes essential to their success in college classrooms, in workplaces, and in programs like ours. Katie, did I miss anything there? I know self-advocacy is a big one. Yeah, okay. Financial literacy. So independence, boy, I wish my parents had taught me how to balance a checkbook before I went to college, because independence requires financial awareness. It doesn't matter whether you're neurodiverse or neurotypical. You can't manage adult life if you don't understand what the real cost of adult life is. So start by introducing budgeting in practical and tangible ways for your student. Now, this might include giving a set monthly allowance instead of piecemeal spending money, maybe having them track expenses with that money for a month to see really where their money actually goes. Teach them responsible debit card use and reviewing bank statements and really what is balancing that look like. Have open conversations about needs versus wants, fixed expenses versus discretionary spending. What is the true cost of rent, utilities, groceries, transportation, insurance, and how small purchases can really add up over time. And whenever possible, try to attach real responsibility to money. Have them pay for their own gas or their own clothing or entertainment or subscriptions, contribute to their phone bill, or maybe even, that one meal that they're going to start planning for the family, have that come out of their monthly budget or their weekly budget. But give them real responsibility around that money. We don't want to overwhelm them. So you certainly wouldn't want to implement all of these examples all at once, but the goal is to create awareness and ownership around their finances. And when students understand how money works before they leave home, they're better equipped to make really responsible decisions and avoid the shock that often comes with living on their own, living independently. Katie, anything you want to add about that? I know we often talk to students about when we're working through grocery budgets for the week. We spent $45 on DoorDash this week and you only had $80 to spend on groceries. Well, now we're going to have to do some significant adjustments to grocery list and that kind of thing, because DoorDash budgets look very different when there's food in mom and dad's fridge.
Yeah, the cost of convenience is a conversation that we have on a regular basis, whether it's
Right.
DoorDash or the super convenient little market convenience store that's on the first floor of the apartment, right on your way when you're walking across the street to ACC. It's great if you need it, but if you're buying all your snacks there every day, it's a real easy price comparison to see, okay, how much would a 20 pack of chips at HEB cost, if I bought a box compared to a single bag of chips every day at the Highland Market. These are good conversations to have, good awarenesses to have. The needs versus wants conversation is another really good one to start, sooner rather than later, because that's a big one that we have with students when they start to try to manage their monthly money, their monthly budget. It becomes pretty important to ask yourself, is this a want or is this a need? And that can help, clarify those choices a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. So transportation is freedom for every young adult, but really only if a student knows how to navigate it safely and confidently on their own. So getting around the community really isn't just about moving from point A to point B. It builds executive function skills like planning, sequencing, time management, safety awareness, spatial awareness, and adaptability. So if your student doesn't drive, begin practicing taking public transportation if it's available in your community. Start by taking trips together on the bus, on the train, on the subway. Really shake things up a little bit and gradually shift more responsibility in the planning and the routes. Shift that responsibility to them. Have them practice looking up routes and schedules, planning departure times based on an arrival time so that they are managing that to get someplace on time. Have them practice purchasing the tickets or loading a transit card. Problem solve delays or route changes and use GPS and navigation apps. Identify safe alternatives if a plan falls through. And another thing that we encourage parents to start talking to students about in transportation is, how do I ask for help? If I get lost, who can I ask and how do I go about doing that? And if buses and trains and that, public transportation is not available in your community, you can still build those same skills by having your student plan the routes, estimate arrival times, identify backup options, and even direct you while you're driving. Rideshare services like Uber or Lyft can really serve as transitional tools, allowing students to practice booking and confirming safety details and problem solving changes again. And here the goal really isn't the mode of transportation, it's building planning, safety awareness, flexibility, and confidence. Because independence really comes from learning how to manage the logistics and not just from how to use the bus to get to the movies. It's really more about the logistics. So healthy routines, the backbone of independence. Students who manage their sleep and their nutrition and their self-care are really better able to focus, manage stress, make responsible decisions. And we can support this as parents by encouraging regular sleep schedules, even on the weekends. Most students and young adults say, well, it's Saturday, I don't have to get up in the morning, I can stay up till 4 o'clock in the morning. And then that throws them off for the rest of the week. So if we could manage those on the weekends too, that certainly encourages good, healthy routines. Regular physical activity, stress management strategies. These habits don't just promote health, they really help the student build the structure and the discipline needed to manage everyday life. It just makes it easier. Productive struggle. This is a really good one. We all know that growth happens when students experience challenges and have to learn to navigate them on their own. And allowing them to face natural consequences really helps them build resilience and strengthens their executive function. So for example, if they forget an assignment, as parents, we want to grab that notebook, jump in the car, and rush to the school. But we encourage you to resist immediately running up to the school to deliver that. There will be natural consequences. Will they graduate from high school and go to college if they forget this assignment? Yep. But chances are they won't forget an assignment again, because that can be somewhat nerve-wracking to forget an assignment, and they will make adjustments accordingly. If they oversleep, allow them to manage those consequences, whatever that looks like for your young adult. I know for me, when I was in high school, I went to school a couple of times in my pajama pants. It was embarrassing. It only happened twice, I'm happy to admit. But those natural consequences really create an environment through which the young adult will start thinking about making some adjustments so that that doesn't happen again. And the goal here isn't to let them fail unnecessarily, but it's to give them the opportunity again to problem solve, to reflect, and to make those adjustments. And over time, these experiences will help your student develop the confidence and the skills that they need to manage college, work, and independent living simultaneously, successfully. Now, this next strategy, this shift, is really one of the hardest to execute because it's for you as parents, and that is moving from doing tasks for our young adults to coaching them through tasks. So this manager to consultant shift is a pretty difficult one. And this shift really helps develop critical executive function skills like planning, problem solving, self-monitoring, and it's all communication based. So things like, instead of reminding, prompting, or fixing, ask, what's your plan? Or how are you going to remember to do that? What's your backup plan if this doesn't work? So encourage them to, again, take ownership, to make their own decisions, and to think about what the possible outcome would be. And oftentimes that's going to require some prompting from you at first, until thinking about possible outcomes becomes just a part of normal thought processes. Step in only as a guide, and again, not as a fixer, letting them experience consequences and successes, because that's really what will build that resilience and the confidence and the real world problem solving skills. So again, that's a hard one. So when these kinds of strategies are implemented at home, and again, these are just a few, when these are implemented at home, and then the student moves into a program like CLE, it becomes an incredibly solid foundation for independent living skills, one that really fosters lasting confidence and success. Katie, with these, is there anything you want to add? I know you work with families all the time, especially during the transition phase, as they're exploring post-secondary options. Um, what are some things that you encourage parents to kind of implement at home to get their young adult ready?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of what you've talked about, Jamie, and as you've said, the last couple are really hard as parents. I'm a parent too, and it's hard to see our kids struggle or to see them fail sometimes. It's hard to step back so that they can step up. But that is what we ask parents to do when students come to us at CLE. And again, Jamie, tell me if I'm jumping ahead. I don't know if you have a slide about the parent coaches, but this has led me to just think about the parent coaches and how valuable they are. We hear from our parents all of the time. So with each new student at CLE, part of their contract and what they are receiving, their family is receiving, is 5 parent coaching sessions. These are phone calls with a parent coach from parent coach professionals. So while we at CLE are focused on primarily the student, we recognize this is a transition not only for the student, but for the whole family, and especially for the parents. And so the parent coaches are able to really focus on you, with you, on strategies for supporting and encouraging the independence that your young adult children are learning and developing at CLE through the ways that you are shifting from manager to consultant, normalizing productive struggle, allowing them to experience those natural consequences and learn from them. Because as Jamie said, it is not an easy thing at all. And I mean, just today I saw a note that made me smile and feel really happy from one of our parent coaches. In real time during the phone call, the parents got a text from their son, who's a CLE Austin student. And he has a tendency to share that this week, every week, is the most difficult and challenging week that he's ever experienced. And the coach had been talking to the parents about, understanding that must be hard to hear, and encouraging them, instead of correcting that and saying, well, it can't possibly be the hardest week because you said that last week and you said it the week before and you said it the week before. Hearing them and empathizing and expressing that you hear what they're saying. And sometimes that's all our students need, is to be heard. But as they're having that conversation, the parent gets another text from their son, complaining and concerned about the noise coming from the neighbor's apartment. I don't know if it was a neighbor with a toddler, but it might have been. And there was noise coming through the walls that was bothering him. And so the coach was able to, in real time, coach the parents on, hey, instead of suggesting ideas or things to try, put it back on him. Ask, what's your plan? How are you going to respond to that? And that's that switch that Jamie was talking about. Sometimes it's as simple as just flipping from, well, have you tried, A, B, C, or Z, to, man, I'm sorry to hear how frustrating that is. What's your plan? How are you going to respond? And then the next part that we tell our new parents too is, and if they are still upset, concerned, escalating maybe about their concern about it, then the parents will refer them to CLE. Well, have you called the RA yet? Have you reached out to them to see how they can help? So again, it's just building that independence. How can you advocate for yourself? Who can you ask for help? Who's the right person to reach out to in this situation? And I loved seeing how the parent coach was able to support the parents through that example on that note earlier today.
Love that. So, we are all about helping young adults build real world skills so that they can move forward into independent adult life with confidence. The work you're doing at home, encouraging responsibility, self-advocacy, problem solving, really makes a difference in getting them ready. So we are excited to be partnering with you as parents, and to be a resource for you as your students take these next huge steps toward independent adulthood, and as they launch after they walk across that stage, because it's coming fast. So I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing. My contact information is here, but I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing. And we are going to, let me see if we've got questions in the Q&A. We don't have any questions in the Q&A just yet, but I will again, we are recording this this presentation, and I will have it converted into a YouTube, and we will send the link out to all of the families who have registered. And that will include my contact information. And if you have questions, go ahead and send those directly to me, and I will make sure that they are added to a document, and then I can send out an additional follow-up email that includes those questions and answers. Did anyone who is logged in right now, does anyone have any questions that they would like to throw in the chat and ask either Katie or myself about CLE in particular, or maybe some additional strategies, or maybe, things that you can do at home, or anything that we can assist with? Throw that in the chat. I know we're 3 minutes over. Katie, we did really good at keeping it to an hour. That was great. That was great. Well, we'll just give it another minute. And Katie, do you have anything else you want to add before we wrap it up? Yeah.
No, I was just putting in the chat, and I'm looking to confirm the number now. But if you are interested in scheduling a visit, we have our 800 number or our website that you can reach out to us or email Jamie or me, and we would be happy to set that up.
Yeah, absolutely. And I will include all of that information in the follow-up email too, Katie. So thank you. All right. So what we'll do is we'll go ahead and wrap it up. I will let everybody get to your Tuesday evening. Again, I will send this out here in a couple of days. And thank you so much, everyone, for joining us. And until next time, enjoy the rest of your week. And hopefully we'll see you all again soon. Bye, everyone. Bye.